My teenage son told me, "I wish you died instead of mom," after I tried to set boundaries with his drinking. His grandmother nodded in agreement. I packed my bags that night and left them both to figure it out. 8 months later, they found me, and my son looked like he'd aged 5 years. I'm Owen, 41, male, and I can still hear the bottle roll across the kitchen tile like a coin deciding my life. Tyler, 16, male, my son, was swaying in the doorway, cheeks flushed cherry red, breath sweet with cheap vodka. Lorraine, 66, female, my mother-in-law, stood behind him in her quilted robe like a judge who'd already picked the verdict. It was 12:17 a.m., and the house felt like it had slid an inch off its foundation. Nothing level, nothing sure. 8 months ago is when he said it. "I wish you died instead of mom." He spit the sentence like a seed. Lorraine nodded, actually nodded, eyes hard and wet. And that was the moment something in me folded in half and wouldn't stand up again. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You can't understand that sentence without knowing Jess, 38, female. My wife, she died last spring. She was the movie night person, the chaser of small joys, the only one who could make a grocery list look like flirting. The cancer was fast and ugly. The house filled with casseroles and whispers, and after the funeral, everyone vanished like they'd been hired only for the day. Lorraine stayed, though. She brought Tupperware and opinions. She started breathing for Tyler, answering for him, keeping him busy with errands that looked like care and felt like kidnapping. Tyler and I used to build model planes in the garage. Now he stayed out late and came back smelling like sweet rot. I tried to choose my battles. Then I found a shattered picture frame in his backpack, our wedding photo, glass ground white along Jess's smile. I swept it up with my hands and bled before I realized what I was doing. That little cut throbbed all night like an alarm I kept snoozing. When I set a curfew, Lorraine called it cruelty. When I told Tyler no drinking in my house, she accused me of policing grief. She would wrap an arm around his shoulders, showing me the back of him like a door slamming. "He's healing," she'd say. Healing looked a lot like a boy disappearing by inches. The night it all snapped, I found the half-empty bottle hidden in the laundry basket with Jess's scarf, a soft blue one that still holds her ghost. Tyler stumbled in and laughed when I told him to hand over his phone and the keys. "You're not my warden," he slurred. Lorraine's slippered feet scuffed behind him as she stepped between us like I was the threat. When I told him I loved him too much to watch him drown in front of me, he smiled a mean little smile I'd never seen on his face before and tossed the grenade. "I wish you'd died instead of mom." Lorraine's chin lifted. "He's right," she said, calm as a church. I remember my heartbeat sounding like knuckles on a door that would never open again. I set Jess's scarf on the counter, careful, like if I was gentle with fabric, I could still be gentle with people. Then I walked upstairs, pulled the old duffel from the closet, and filled it with working clothes and a photo of Jess where she's laughing into the wind. Downstairs, the bottle had rolled to a stop against the baseboard, like it had chosen its side. Tyler wouldn't meet my eyes. Lorraine did, victorious, pitying. "Go then," she said. "We'll manage without your rules." I closed the door quietly so it wouldn't rattle the picture hooks. The porch air felt like biting into a battery. I didn't slam anything. I didn't yell. I just left. I left them to figure it out. And for 8 months, I learned how to breathe without drowning in my own house. That's the prologue to the ruin. The night I became the villain in my son's story. The night a boy threw a match and a grandmother handed him gasoline. I didn't go far at first. Slept in the back of my truck outside a motel that smelled like mildew and cigarettes. The duffel bag dug into my shoulder like a reminder of what I'd done. My phone buzzed all night, calls from numbers I knew by heart. I let them ring until the screen went dark. By morning, I rented a month-to-month studio above a laundromat. Single bed, buzzing fridge, window that looked out on a dumpster where stray cats held midnight meetings. It wasn't home, but at least no one could throw my dead wife's ghost at me there. The silence was brutal. Jess's laugh wasn't in the walls. Tyler's stomping wasn't overhead. Just me and a ceiling fan that clicked like a metronome keeping time with my regret. I kept asking myself, did I abandon my son? Or did he abandon me first? The fallout started fast. First, my sister-in-law called, furious. How could you leave a grieving boy with nothing but an old woman? I almost laughed. Lorraine had made it clear she didn't think I was worth a damn as a father. Now suddenly I was the missing puzzle piece? Then the bills started bouncing back. Lorraine called me screaming when the power got shut off. This is your responsibility, she hissed, like I was still supposed to be the man fixing everything while she cut me off at the knees. I told her calmly, you told me to go. You and Tyler both. I listened. And then I hung up. My hands shook for an hour afterward, but I didn't call back. Work kept me alive. I took double shifts, extra projects, anything to keep me from thinking too hard. Nights were worse. Nights were when I saw Jess, pale in the hospital bed, whispering, take care of him, Owen. Nights when I thought maybe Tyler was right. Maybe I should have gone instead. But then came the first crack in Lorraine's fortress. A voicemail from Tyler, 3 weeks after I left. His voice was hoarse, angry, but underneath it was something else. Fine, Dad. You left. Whatever. But can you at least bring food? She doesn't cook. I'm starving. I sat in the laundromat parking lot listening to it on repeat. My chest ached. He wasn't saying sorry, wasn't even saying he missed me. Just admitting the empire of Lorraine wasn't so perfect when the lights went out and the fridge was empty. For the first time since walking out, I let myself smile. Not because he was suffering, God, that still tore me up, but because I knew the truth. Without me, their kingdom was crumbling. And I wasn't done watching it fall. Don't forget to subscribe. 2 months in, I started hearing stories. Small-town gossip moves like wildfire, even when you're not asking. A buddy from work saw Tyler outside the liquor store trying to pass off his learner's permit as ID. Someone else told me Lorraine got into it with the landlord over unfair rent hikes, screaming in the parking lot until he threatened to call the cops. I didn't respond. Didn't drive by. Just let the rumors roll in and pile up like evidence in a case I wasn't ready to argue yet. But the first real crack came on a Tuesday night. I was coming back from a late shift when I saw the missed calls. 9 of them, all from Tyler. The voicemail was half shouted, half sobbed. Dad, Grandma fell. She slipped in the kitchen and I don't know what to do. She's bleeding and she's yelling at me and, just come home, please. I sat on the edge of my lumpy bed staring at the phone. My hands wanted the keys. My chest wanted to run. But my brain reminded me of Jess's scarf, wrapped around that vodka bottle. Reminded me of Tyler's face twisted with hate when he said I should have been the one in the grave. So I didn't go. Not that night. The next day, I drove by the old house on my way to work. The blinds were crooked, the yard unmowed. Lorraine's car was in the driveway but dented now. Fresh scrape along the passenger side like someone misjudged a turn. And on the porch was Tyler, shirt wrinkled, chain smoking like a man 3 times his age. His eyes were sunken hollows. He looked up as I slowed at the stop sign. For a heartbeat, our eyes locked. Then he looked away, like I was just another stranger passing by. I drove off, chest hollow. The calls didn't stop. Sometimes it was Lorraine, shrill and venomous. Sometimes Tyler, drunk and slurring apologies that twisted into curses before the message ended. The climax came one Saturday at dawn when I woke to pounding on my apartment door. Through the peephole, Tyler. Wild-eyed, gaunt, fists beating against the thin wood. Dad, open up, please, I can't do this anymore. His voice cracked like something inside him had finally snapped. Behind him, Lorraine's voice carried from the stairwell, sharp as glass. Don't beg him, Tyler. He's worthless, just like I told you. And that was the moment I realized. It wasn't just about Tyler's drinking or his grief. Lorraine had been carving me out of his heart like rot, turning him into a weapon aimed at me. But the weapon was starting to backfire. I didn't open the door. Not yet. I needed to see just how far their kingdom could collapse without me. And God help me. A part of me wanted them to feel every inch of the fall. By the 4th month, my phone was a battlefield. Half the time, it was Lorraine's voice, shrill and venomous. You think you're teaching us a lesson? You're just abandoning your duty. Jess would be ashamed. The other half, Tyler's drunk dials, slurred apologies, or worse, him raging about how I'd ruined his life. But then came the call that stopped me cold. It wasn't from either of them. It was from the school. Tyler hadn't shown up in weeks. His grades had tanked. Rumors of fights, vandalism, sneaking liquor into gym class. The counselor wanted to know if I was still the legal guardian in residence. That phrase stung worse than any insult. Legal guardian. As if the man who'd wiped his nose, taught him to ride a bike, sat beside Jess's hospital bed praying she'd hold on another week. That man had somehow been erased, replaced by a bitter old woman feeding him poison. That night, I drove by the house again. This time, I didn't stay in the car. The place was a wreck. Grass waist-high, trash bags piled on the porch, curtains yellow with smoke. I knocked once. No answer. Knocked harder. Finally, the door creaked open and Tyler stood there, shirtless, pupils blown wide. He looked 25 instead of 16, jaw tight, skin gray, a man's exhaustion on a boy's frame. "Dad," he croaked. Not hate this time, not venom, just hollow. Then Lorraine's voice cut through from the living room. "Don't let him in, Tyler. He doesn't live here anymore." I stepped forward, but Tyler's arm shot out, shaky but firm, blocking the doorway. His eyes flicked between me and her, like he was caught between two cliffs. "She says you left us," he muttered. "She says you don't care." Inside, I could see Lorraine on the couch, clutching her rosary like she was the victim. The TV was on, volume blasting, drowning out the silence of a home rotting from the inside. I wanted to push past him, to drag him out of there. But I froze. Because this wasn't the Tyler I remembered. This was Lorraine's Tyler, frayed, brittle, already half broken. So I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I stepped back. "When you're ready to hear the truth," I said quietly, "you know where to find me." Lorraine barked a laugh from the couch. "Coward?" But for a split second, just a flicker, Tyler's eyes softened. Like a kid lost in a maze, realizing maybe there was another exit. I turned and walked back to the car. My heart was hammering, my hands shaking. And for the first time since Jess died, I stopped thinking about survival. I started thinking about justice. Lorraine wanted me gone? Fine. I'd show her what life without me really looked like. The war wasn't over. It was just starting. Don't forget to subscribe. Update. I didn't expect so many people to read this. Honestly, I thought I'd just dump it here because I've been carrying this weight around alone for too long. But reading your comments, some of you saying you've lived through the same crap, some of you calling out the manipulation for what it is, it hit me hard. A lot of you asked the same thing. Why didn't you just take Tyler and leave Lorraine behind? Believe me, I wanted to. Still do. But here's the ugly truth. He chose her. Or at least, he thought he did. She filled his grief with poison until he looked at me and saw the villain. And when a kid spits, "I wish you died instead of Mom," you don't just scoop him up and play happy family. You bleed out from it. And Lorraine? God. Some of y'all said she sounds like a cartoon villain, but I swear she's worse because she plays the victim so well. She's turned every crack in Tyler's grief into an open wound, then convinced him I'm the one who salted it. But here's what I need you to know. I'm done just surviving this. I've watched their world rot without me. Missed school, unpaid bills, Tyler looking 10 years older in the span of months. And it's not satisfaction I feel watching it. It's clarity. I was their backbone, their scapegoat, their punching bag. And they thought I'd always come crawling back when it got bad enough. Not this time. Some of you said the only way through is to cut the head off the snake, expose Lorraine for what she really is. And you're right. She wants to rewrite the story, paint me as the deadbeat dad who abandoned his son. Fine. I'll show everyone exactly who's been pulling Tyler's strings, and I'll do it in a way she can't squirm out of. Because here's the thing. I may have left that night with just a duffel bag, but Lorraine and Tyler weren't the only ones keeping secrets. And I've got the receipts. Don't forget to subscribe. The first time I hit back, it wasn't loud. It wasn't a showdown. It was paperwork. Lorraine had been strutting around like she held the reins, telling the school she was Tyler's guardian, telling neighbors I'd abandoned them, painting herself as the saint, keeping my son from drowning. But here's what she didn't count on. I never signed over anything. Custody, finances, medical permissions. Legally, I was still the one with the power. So I used it. I called the school district, explained calmly that Lorraine had no custodial rights, and had the principal fax me copies of every excuse note she'd been writing for Tyler. Dozens of them, all forged in shaky cursive, claiming he was sick or grieving too hard to attend. They were already on edge about his absences, and when they realized the notes weren't from me, things shifted. Fast. Next, I hit the utilities. Lorraine had been living off Jess's old survivor benefits and what little was left of my bank account when I walked out. But the house, the accounts, even the insurance, it was all still in my name. One by one, I cut the ties. Electric, internet, car insurance. Within a week, their little empire of control turned into a cave. I didn't hear from Tyler right away. But Lorraine? She lost her mind. She stormed into my workplace one afternoon, red-faced and screeching, calling me a coward, a traitor, accusing me of starving my own child. She knocked over a chair in the lobby, pounded her fists on the counter, had to be escorted out by security while customers stared. And I'll admit it, watching her dragged out, shrieking about how I ruined everything, it felt good, sweet even. But it wasn't enough. Because that night, Tyler showed up at my apartment again. This time, he didn't pound on the door. He just sat on the steps, knees drawn up, staring at nothing. He looked like he'd aged 5 years and 8 months. When I finally stepped outside, he didn't even look up, just muttered, "She says you hate me." I sat down beside him, heart in my throat. "No, Tyler, I hate what she's turned you into. But I don't hate you." For the first time since Jess's funeral, he started to cry. Not the angry tears he used to weaponize, but the real, broken kind. His shoulders shook, and for a second he was just my boy again. That's when I knew Lorraine wasn't the enemy I needed to fight quietly anymore. She wasn't going to let go until she was exposed, until everyone could see the claws she hid under that rosary. And if she wanted war, I'd give her one. Lorraine didn't go quiet after the workplace meltdown. She doubled down. The first sign came 2 nights later, around 2 a.m. I woke to pounding, this time not on my door, but on my car. I pulled the curtain back just in time to see Lorraine in the street, nightgown flapping, baseball bat in her hands. She swung wild, glass shattering as my headlights blew out. Her voice carried across the empty block. "You'll pay for this, Owen. You're killing your son." By the time I made it downstairs, she was gone. My car looked like a crime scene. Windshield cracked, bat gouges across the hood. My neighbors stood on their porches, whispering, phones out, recording. I didn't call the cops, not yet. Part of me wanted her to keep spiraling, to dig her own grave deeper. But the next day, Tyler called. His voice was shaky. "Dad, she's saying you tried to hit her, that you're dangerous. She's showing people pictures of the car like it's proof." I swallowed hard. Classic Lorraine, projecting her madness onto me. "Do you believe her?" I asked. There was a pause. Then, quietly, "I don't know what to believe anymore." That cut deeper than glass. By the weekend, the smear campaign was in full swing. Lorraine showed up at my sister-in-law's house uninvited, crying about how I'd abandoned Tyler, how I'd cut off the utilities to starve them, how she was the only one keeping him alive. She pulled out old photos of Tyler and Jess, weeping like a widow instead of a mother-in-law. Half the family bought it, at least at first. My phone buzzed with angry texts. "How could you leave your son like this? Why are you letting Lorraine raise him alone?" But then something shifted. A neighbor sent me a video. Lorraine outside my old house, screaming at the landlord, throwing flower pots against the siding while Tyler stood on the porch, face pale, eyes wide. She looked like a banshee, shrieking about conspiracies, about me sabotaging her life. The mask was slipping, and people were starting to see it. The final straw came when Tyler showed up at my place again, this time reeking of booze, his face hollow. He shoved past me, knocking a lamp to the floor. "She's gone crazy, Dad. She locks the doors, hides the keys. She says I can't see you because you'll poison me. But she's the one. He broke off, collapsing onto the couch, head in his hands. I sat there, looking at my son, half grown, half destroyed, and realized Lorraine wasn't just unstable. She was dangerous. And if I didn't put a stop to her, she was going to take Tyler down with her. That night, I pulled out Jess's old leather-bound journal, the one Lorraine never knew existed. Jess had written everything in there. Her worries about Lorraine's overreach, her fear that Tyler would get swallowed by her bitterness, even her last request to me. Don't let my mother raise him in my shadow. Lorraine wanted a war? Fine. I finally had the ammunition. Update 2. I wasn't sure if I'd post again, but after what's happened the past couple weeks, I need to. A lot of you said in the comments after my last update that Lorraine wouldn't stop until she burned everything down around her. And you were right. She's completely lost it. You've probably guessed by now, she smashed up my car. Middle of the night, in the street, screaming like a banshee, bat in hand, while neighbors filmed her. She's been telling anyone who'll listen that I attacked her. Some of my own family bought it, at first, until the video started making the rounds. But the worst part? Tyler. He's unraveling. Showing up at my apartment drunk, pale, begging for help one minute, cursing me the next. He's 16, but he looks like a man twice his age who's already given up. And it kills me. Because I know he's drowning in her poison, but he's also starting to see the cracks in her story. Here's what none of them know. Not Lorraine, not the family, not even Tyler. Jess left me something. A journal. Her handwriting on every page, full of her fears, her warnings, her plea that I never let her mother turn Tyler into a puppet of her bitterness. I've kept it locked away. Too personal, too raw. But now, that's going to be my weapon. Lorraine's biggest power is the narrative. She's painted me as the villain, herself as the martyr, Tyler as the helpless orphan. The second I pull out Jess's own words, the truth in her voice, not mine, that whole house of cards comes crashing down. And I'm going to do it where Lorraine can't hide. Public, undeniable, in front of every person she's lied to. It happened at the church. Jess's anniversary mass. Lorraine had organized it, plastering Facebook with invitations like she was hosting royalty. The whole town was there. Family, neighbors, even some of Tyler's teachers. Lorraine swept in draped in black lace, clutching her rosary, every sigh and tear staged like theater. Tyler trailed behind her, shoulders hunched, eyes dead. I wasn't planning to go. But Jess's journal sat heavy in my hands that morning, and I realized this was the place. In the house of God, in front of everyone Lorraine had fooled, with Jess's words echoing louder than any lie. When I walked in, whispers rippled. Lorraine's face tightened. "You don't belong here," she hissed, clutching Tyler's arm like a shield. But Tyler looked at me. Just for a second. And I saw it. The question in his eyes. The flicker of hope. The priest began the eulogy, soft words about Jess's kindness, her faith. Then he opened the floor for remembrances. Lorraine stood first, voice trembling as she painted herself as Jess's closest confidant, the one who'd kept the family afloat in her absence. People nodded. Some even clapped. When she sat down, I rose. My knees felt like glass, but I forced myself to the front, journal in hand. "I want to honor Jess," I said, my voice low but steady. Not with my words, but with hers. The room shifted. Lorraine stiffened. I opened to a page near the end. Jess's handwriting, looping and fragile. "I'm scared of what happens to Tyler if my mother takes over. Her bitterness is poison. I need Owen to raise him, not her. Promise me, Owen. Don't let her turn him against the world." Gasps, murmurs. Tyler's head snapped up. I read another. "Mom thinks she knows best, but she only knows control. Tyler needs love, not chains." Lorraine shot to her feet, face red, voice breaking. "Lies! Forgeries! You made that up!" She lunged toward me, grabbing at the journal. Her rosary snapped, beads scattering across the floor like bones. The priest tried to intervene, but Lorraine was shrieking now, about how I'd abandoned Tyler, how I'd cut off their utilities, how Jess never trusted me. Her voice cracked, ugly and raw, echoing in the vaulted ceiling. And in that chaos, Tyler stood. His voice was hoarse but loud. "Stop, Grandma." The whole church froze. He stepped away from her, toward me. His eyes were wet, his face pale. "I don't know everything, but I know Mom wouldn't want this." Lorraine reached for him, but he flinched back. "Don't touch me." For the first time in 8 months, it wasn't me she'd lost. It was him. The room buzzed with whispers. People who'd seen the mask slip, who'd watched her unravel in real time. The perfect widow act was gone. In its place stood a furious, desperate woman clutching broken beads on the church floor. And me, holding Jess's words like a sword, with my son finally looking at me, not like the villain, not like the replacement, but like his father again. After the church, Lorraine's grip crumbled fast. The video hit Facebook within hours. Someone had filmed the whole meltdown, me reading Jess's words, Lorraine screeching and grabbing at the journal, beads scattering like broken teeth across the church floor. The comments were brutal. Neighbors who'd once whispered that I abandoned my son were now calling her unhinged. Teachers from Tyler's school shared it quietly, noting how it explained his erratic behavior. Even some of Jess's relatives messaged me apologies, admitting they'd been fooled. Lorraine tried to fight back. She filed a complaint at family court, claiming I was unfit, that I'd cut Tyler off, that I was manipulating Jess's memory. But Jess's handwriting was undeniable. I brought the journal. The judge didn't even look twice. Custody remained with me. Tyler moved into my little studio first. He slept on the bed while I took the floor. He was shaky, brittle, detoxing from booze and lies. He'd snap at me, then break down crying. Nights were the hardest. He'd wake screaming for his mom, and I'd sit with him, remembering I couldn't save him from grief, only sit with him in it. Slowly, he started coming back. He cut his hair, ate real meals, went back to school. The teachers said he still carried himself like he'd aged 5 years. But he was showing up. He was trying. Lorraine, she spiraled into isolation. Her church friends stopped visiting. Family stopped answering her calls. Last I heard, she'd moved in with a cousin 2 towns over, still muttering about how I'd stolen her grandson. I don't doubt she'll keep spinning her stories until the day she dies. But the audience is gone. One night, about a month after the church, Tyler and I sat on the stoop of the studio, eating takeout straight from the cartons. He didn't look at me when he said it. "I didn't mean it, you know, when I said I wished you died instead of Mom." I swallowed hard. "I know." He nodded, eyes on the dark street. I didn't know how to hurt like that. And she told me it was your fault. Everything." His voice cracked. "I wanted someone to blame." I put my arm around him. He didn't pull away. That was the revenge, really. Not the journal, not the exposure, not even the video of Lorraine unraveling. It was this. My son, finally breaking free of her poison, finally seeing me not as the villain, but as the father Jess trusted me to be. Lorraine wanted me erased. But in the end, she erased herself. And Jess's words, her voice, were the rope I used to pull Tyler back from the cliff. 8 months later, when I looked at him beside me on that stoop, pale but alive, fragile but fighting, I realized something. I'd been waiting for revenge. But what I really wanted was restoration. And maybe, just maybe, we were finally on the way there.